I love singing that song. I remember when that song was written. Brother Dicus was an elder in the church at Temple Terrace in Florida. And for those that don't know, he was a scientist. He was the man that invented the turn signal on your automobile. Time magazine came out with a front page spread, "Is God Dead?" This song answered it. Your God might be, but our God, He is alive. And so I remember when that was a brand new song, it became popular by singing it at the Temple Terrace Church of Christ. And then so many people that were students at Florida College, they learned it, and then as they were going back home, they wanted to teach it to mommy and daddy and to the congregation. And so they finally printed it on loose gum sheets. Some of you are old enough, you remember most churches had the Sacred Selection book back then. You'd have to lick it and stick that in the back. And then finally then the new edition came out, and there it was printed inside, and now I guess it's in every song book that every Church of Christ uses. And I just love it. I want to repeat what has been said in the welcome that we had a few moments ago, and that's thank you for being here. Welcome. Some of you have been present at every service since we began on Sunday morning, and some of you are here for the first time tonight, so regardless of who you are and where you're from or how many times you've been here, I'm glad that I get to share this hour with you. I'm looking forward to this lesson tonight. This is the second time that I've preached this sermon. And the first time that I preached it, I sent it in advance to the church, and they thought I'd made a typo. So they corrected it for me. And I said, no, put it back the way I had it. They thought I was going to be talking about restoring the first century church. And I said, no, my lesson is restoring the first century Christ. Now let's get in here and see what we're talking about. The Apostle Paul says in 1 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 1, "Be imitators of me as I am of Christ." Paul loved to try to imitate Christ, and if you could see Christ in him, then he was hoping that you would be willing to be an imitator of him. Now, as I said a few moments ago, we make every effort to try to imitate or try to restore the first century church. I've got lots and lots of sermons where that I emphasize that. I talk about the difference between reforming and restoring. And so when I was in Honduras back in January, I said, well, let me use this example. Let's take this pickup truck out here. And so let's say that I buy this simple red Ford pickup truck, and then I want to reform it. And so I put big horns up on the top of it, and I put something strange out in front of the grill, and then I have somebody to paint fire going down the doors there. I said, you understand I'm reforming it. So I keep it for 20 years, and then I sell it. And the guy said, well, I'm a collector of old trucks, and I want to restore it. All right, now what does that mean? That means to get it back just like it was in the original. So you're going to, all these things that I added, you're going to take those off. You want to get it back just like it was in the original. Well, that's what I'm trying to do today. I don't care which country I go to. Doesn't matter whether I'm in the Philippines or whether I'm in Russia or I'm in Vietnam or I'm in India or I'm in Sri Lanka or I'm on one of the islands down somewhere. What I'm trying to do is to, in the 21st century, to have us to be Christians just like they were in the first century. And so when we talk about imitating the first century church, we look at verses like this, Acts chapter 20, upon the first day of the week when the disciples came together to break bread. So we do that on Sunday, right? And that we're going to have the communion or the Lord's Supper. We want to do it like they did in the first century. It's going to be simple, unleavened bread and the juice. Now, there's a church up north in the New England states. Don't know if you read about that one. They wanted to try to attract more teenagers. So for the Lord's Supper, they now serve hamburger and Coca-Cola. Don't believe they did that in the first century. And what I'm trying to teach today is that we want to restore it just like it was in the first century. The collection. We don't take up a collection on Wednesday, on Friday, on Saturday. We only take up a collection on Sunday. We don't try to twist the arms of people and make them give a certain amount. It is a free will offering. And so we teach the same thing today, just like they did back in the first century. We sing. We use God's instrument, our vocal cords, singing and making melody in our hearts to the Lord. And so we sing with psalms and hymns and spiritual songs. We try to do the same thing today just like they did back in the first century. As Paul tells Timothy, you follow the pattern of the sound words that you've heard from me in the faith and love that are in Christ Jesus. Now, with that being said, I do have a lot of sermons where I emphasize restoring the first century church. You understand me now? But now tonight I'm asking, do we try as hard to imitate the first century Christ? Now what do I mean by that? We can't become so singularly focused on being like them that we neglect to become like Him. If we're wanting to restore the first century church, we're going to have to understand that this church was founded by Jesus, and He is the rock. And so we need to understand Him so that we can understand the church that He built. Now, let's look at some of the points when we study about Jesus. What was Jesus like? Now, Paul said, be imitators. He was an imitator of Christ. So I learn here that Jesus, the Christ of the church, that He was moved with compassion. Now, if I were to ask many of you, what's the shortest verse in the Bible? Real rapidly, so many people would say Jesus wept. That's an easy verse to memorize. I'm not for sure that I have all the answers that people ask. Why did He cry? Well, He was a good friend with Lazarus and Mary and Martha. So I don't know whether He was crying just because of His love for them and His friendship with them, or was He crying because of the lack of faith that the people had. Or it could be a combination of the two of them. Jesus was a very compassionate person. Now, many of you, I could read your lips when I said the shortest verse of the Bible. I could see how many of you immediately were saying, Jesus wept. Do you know the second time that Jesus cried? There is another verse in the Bible that says Jesus wept. He was on the outside of the walls of Jerusalem. And He said, just like the old mother hen trying to pull all of those chicks around her. Now, some of you folks that grew up in the city, you've probably never seen that before. You know, as soon as the wind starts blowing and the clouds are turning black, that mama hen's going to pull those chicks right around her to protect them. And Jesus used that as the example. Just as the mother hen pulls those chicks. That's what I would love to have done to you, O Jerusalem. I would love to have just put my arms around every one of you and hugged you and pulled you in tight to try to protect you. And Jesus stood there outside of the city looking at Jerusalem. And He cried. I wonder if at that moment He put aside his deity and just relied on his humanity for a moment. I wonder if he was thinking, what more could I have said that I didn't say to try to encourage them, to try to get them to change their life? Jesus was moved by compassion. When he saw people that were blind, he wanted to heal them. He saw people that were crippled. He wanted them to walk. Now, for a couple of days, I've talked with a bunch of you asking, have you been watching those TV shows, The Chosen? And I sound like a public relations man for the Angel Studio. But if you've not been watching those shows, let me encourage you to do it. I even took an hour off of my studying today and watched another episode that I'd already seen. But I knew it's one of those that I always cry through. But they're so accurate that they show you the humanity side of Jesus. And in those TV shows, you sometimes see Jesus crying. You see his compassion for the women. You see his compassion for the children. You see his compassion with people that were having demon possession. That woman that had been bleeding for 12 years. Jesus was a man of compassion. In Matthew chapter 9, verse 36 says, he saw the crowds of people and he felt sorry for them because they were worried and helpless. They were like sheep without a shepherd. Jesus was a compassionate person. Are we? Most of you know that Bowling Green is a college town. And I'm fortunate to worship where that we have about 60 college students. And every now and then, one or two of them will ask me to give some dating advice. And they're not ready for some of the things that I recommend. We got a lot of young people here tonight. We got some that love that dating age. And you might not like something that I'm going to say right now. The worst date you can have is to go to a movie. I want you to do something where you can talk to each other. I encourage some of our college students at Bowling Green, Friday night, have a date and drive to Nashville to go to a gospel meeting an hour away. Don't turn on the radio. There's no music allowed. Learn to talk to each other. Get to know each other. Now, if that one sounds harsh, I'm not through yet. All right, now you boys and girls that are dating, young gal, can you bake some chocolate chip cookies? All right, I want the two of you to go to the nursing home next week. I want you to go visit some of those people that don't have a whole lot of visitors. When my son was in Boy Scouts and he was trying to earn the God and Country Award, one of his projects was that he adopted a lady at the nursing home. And he'd go once a week, read a Bible chapter to her, take her some cookies or candy, take her some fruit, take her a flower. He came home after one of those visits, and I could see how red his eyes were. I thought, boy, you've been crying. He said, Dad, before I left today, he said, that little old lady looked up off of her bed, and she said, are you my grandchild? And he said, no, ma'am, I'm just a Boy Scout trying to earn a badge. She said, oh, I was hoping you were, because I've got 12 grandchildren, but None of them have ever come to see me. She was lonesome. David had sent her a card in the mail, and it was on the windowsill, and the sun had almost bleached it out. But see, that little bitty card made her feel so important. Somebody thought about me. Somebody cared. So I suggest to the young people, visit a nursing home, visit a hospital, visit an orphanage, visit a funeral home. It's easy to go to a party where everybody's laughing. It's not so easy to sit with somebody when they're emotional and they're crying, where they've lost their grandmother or mom or dad or a brother or a sister. Are we as compassionate as Jesus was? So that's the first thing that I would encourage, that we try to copy. We try to be like Christ was. And now another thing that I want to emphasize, and you're going to say, hey, Bob, you're going back to the Sunday sermons, aren't you? Jesus was sent to serve. He wasn't here for everybody to serve him. He came to serve. Jesus sort of inverted that kingdom pyramid. Rather than him wanting to be up here at the top and then everybody else being under him, he was right the opposite. He took your socks and shoes off and washed your nasty feet. You see, he said, I wasn't here to get the whole world to serve me. I'm here to be your servant. Now, how many of us tonight are that humble? How many of us tonight, just like going to one of these wonderful potlucks like we had Sunday, I've been to some places, as soon as they say amen, you better look out, because I know that man will knock half of you down because he's going to be the first one in the line. You ever met somebody like that? But how many of us will say, well, here, you come on in front of me and tell me what you want to drink. I'll go get it for you and take it to the table. I want to be your servant. Now, we don't have to use those words, but we do need to have that kind of an attitude. I want to be your servant. We need to go to the elders and say, what can I do to aid the church? I want to be a servant. You see, it says that Jesus called them to him. And he said, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. It shall not be so among you. Do you understand what Jesus is saying? If you're going to be my disciple, you're not going to act like the rest of the world. You're going to be different. Whoever would be great among you must be your servant. And whoever would be first among you must be your slave. Even as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. As I read these verses, I often just ask myself, well, Bob, how close are you to being what Jesus wants you to be? Do we always want to be top dog? Do we always want to be first? Do we always want everybody serving us? I tried a few years ago to reason with a lady that thought she was going to leave the congregation. Her complaint was, nobody's friendly. Nobody speaks to me. I said, now wait a minute. Let me make sure that I'm getting this correct, because before I go and rebuke somebody, I want to make sure I'm accurate. So what you're telling me is that when you walk up to somebody and you extend your hand to shake hands with them, they refuse to shake with you? Oh no, well, I don't walk up to them and extend my hand. I expect them to come to me. I've known of some people that the moment that they walk through that door, they plop down in that seat, and they don't speak to anybody. And then they're usually the first one to leave the building when the amen is said, and then they go home and they pout. Nobody spoke to me. Do we try? Do we ever try to be friendly? And do I try, if I say, how are you? Do I stand there and wait and listen for the answer? I tried that one time, just to be mean, I guess. A guy shook my hand, how are you? And he didn't even slow down. He just, how are you? And kept walking. I said, you know, the roof fell in on my house and Grandma died and the cat's all sick and, okay, that's good. He wasn't listening. I don't think he cared. And I wonder how many times that we come across like that. I don't care what problems you're having. I don't care that you've been sick. I don't care that Grandma's in the hospital. I don't care that you lost your job. I don't care that you didn't get the new promotion at work. I don't care. Am I that cold? Am I that calloused? You see, Jesus was one of compassion. And Jesus was here to be a servant. The great will not lord it over the small. The path to greatness in His kingdom is not whether or not I'm the president, but whether or not I'm the servant. That's what kingdom living is all about. If we won't serve, then we are not imitating the Christ. We have not restored the first century Christ. In Luke chapter 22, verse 27 says, but I am among you as the one who serves. A servant is not greater than his master. Jesus taught an eternal principle through a contemporary practice. As Lord, Jesus was worthy to be served, but instead He served. What about something as simple as giving you a glass of cold water? Now, Jesus used that as an example. You becoming a servant. The blessing is not in the knowing, but in the doing. I had a church just about 6 months ago to write me because one of the Bible teachers in the children's class was trying to come up with a project that they could do. And so they asked if I would make a list of about 20 preachers around the world that I have worked with. And they wanted the names and the addresses of all of these foreign evangelists. And the children were going to start writing them letters and cards, and some of them even drew pretty little pictures and sent them. And so I followed up at some of those places. So I saw on the walls of some of the homes in the Philippines, in India, in Africa, all over Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. I've seen some of these things on the wall that the children have sent them. And to them, that just simply means somebody cared. Somebody thought about me. There was one class of young girls, everyone decided that they were going to write the wives of all of the preachers. And again, the joy that brought to the hearts of those women. In Matthew chapter 20, the International Children's Bible words it like this: Jesus called all the followers together. He said, "You know that the rulers of the non-Jewish people love to show their power over the people. And their important leaders love to use all of their authority. But it should not be that way among you." What are we trying to restore today? Matthew 25 goes on to say, if one of you wants to become great, then he must serve the rest of you like a servant. If one of you wants to become first, then he must serve the rest of you like a slave. So it is with the Son of Man. The Son of Man did not come for other people to serve him. He came to serve others. The Son of Man came to give his life to save many people. So now you've heard the verse in two different translations. Can we understand that? Can we see how to make application? Faithful servants serve. Serving is just in the DNA of the faithful. The faithful Christian is not trying to see what little can I do, but how much can I do? What extra thing can I do? In Acts chapter 6, it says they chose Stephen, a man full of faith. And so we use this before that they were using the word deacons as an office in the church, but to use this to talk about servants. They must hold the mystery of the faith with a clear conscience. Then let them serve as servants. Let them serve as deacons. And that word literally means kicking up dust. It's a strange Greek word, isn't it? Because you see, this servant is going to be on the move. I had one guy in Indiana that was quite vocal about it. I don't have time to really give much time to the Lord because I might miss out on one of the Monday night football games. Is that the number one thing in your life? Football, baseball, basketball, NASCAR, golf. What is your reputation? Your friends that really know you well. If I mention your name, oh yeah, that woman loves the Bible. That man loves to talk about spiritual things. What kind of a reputation do you have? There needs to be a little bit of deacon in all of us. That attitude of wanting to serve. There was in Martha. Now her sister got a little upset about that. How come I'm doing the cooking, I'm doing the dishes? There's a difference in Mary and in Martha. Which one are we like? Are we wanting to sit at the feet of Jesus and say, teach me some more scriptures? Are we more concerned about the physical things? Look at Phoebe in Romans 16. True servants don't need titles. They're just looking for opportunities to serve. They love serving. They love helping other people. But serving is not always glamorous. Especially if you're going to volunteer to help with some family where there's a sickness. What are you going to do when that little old lady vomits on the floor 3 times a day? Could you put a clothespin on your nose and get down and clean up that puke? Somebody's going to have to do it. What about that man that was in an automobile accident? He's now paralyzed from his neck down. And he's wearing the adult diapers. But they have to be changed. His wife will probably do that, but would you volunteer to take his clothes home and do the laundry for the family? You see, serving is not always glamorous. It never has been. The Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. It is caring for the needs of others, but in an active and a practical way. When's the last time that you made a phone call? I have a nephew at Bowling Green right now that is struggling emotionally. One of his firefighters over the weekend committed suicide. And now I watched and I read 3 pages on Facebook today. And they're all feeling guilty. They knew he had been discouraged. They knew he was struggling. And now that it's too late, everyone's struggling. Why didn't we make a phone call? Why didn't we try to do something with him? Why didn't we try to cheer him up? Friends, too often, we wait until it's too late. In my 55 years of preaching, I think one of the saddest things that I've ever witnessed is at a funeral home when here is this beautiful woman's body in the casket and the husband is standing there beside her, and you hear him say, "Oh, I wish I could call her back and one more time tell her that I love her, because it's probably been 12 years since I told her that." When's the last time as husband or as wife that you use those words, "I love you"? When's the last time you put your arms around Mama and said, "Thank you for all that you did in sacrificing for me"? "Thank you, Daddy, for giving up some of the things that you would like to have had so you could spend money on me." When's the last time you went to the song leader and said, "Thank you for making our service so wonderful in praising the Lord"? When's the last time you went to the preacher and said, "I know the hours that you spend in getting that sermon ready. Thank you"? When's the last time you went to one of your best friends in high school, in college, at the Medina Church of Christ? When's the last time you were brave enough to let the words come out of your mouth, "I love you"? Are we afraid somebody is going to accuse us of being a homosexual if I say, "Ben, I love you"? "Chris, I love you"? Why is it that we let the world make us cowards? Why is it that we don't show the compassion that Jesus showed? And why is it that we don't make that phone call? We don't send that text message. We no longer write letters. We no longer send cards. That's a lost art. And I'm trying to get more and more people to get back into that habit. I'll buy you a book of stamps if you need it, if you'll promise me that you'll start sending somebody a card just to say I'm thinking of you, just to say I'm praying for you. Or it might be giving someone a ride. It might be providing a meal. It might be pulling a weed. Every congregation generally has some widows and widowers. But you see, so many people only think in terms of couples. We're going to have a lunch, so our table could comfortably fit 3 couples around it. We never think about those people that don't have their mate anymore. Those people that would just love to come and sit around the table with you. Or when's the last time that you offered, hey, we're going to go to the mall Saturday afternoon. Would you like to go with us? Several years ago, I organized an event with the Eastside Church. I preached 3 lessons on hospitality. And I concluded at the end of the 3rd lesson, I said, now, I think all of you agree we ought to practice hospitality. But many of you have admitted that we've not been doing it. And so tonight, I've given all of you a piece of paper. Look at it carefully. Tonight, we're going to start playing a little game. I want you to go home and sit at the table. I want the whole family to be together. I want Mommy and Daddy and every one of the kiddos. I want you to get a calendar that you can look at 3 months. I want you to look at all the commitments that you've got. I want you to look at all the Little League games. I want you to look at band practice. I want you to look blah, 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 blah. I want you to mark everything down that you've got for the next 3 months. Now, that little piece of paper that I gave you, I want you to write down 3 dates. 3 dates in 3 months that you could have somebody to your house. Now, in the second box, based on the size of your house, your apartment, or your trailer, I want you to write down how many people that you could accommodate. And then in the third box, based on your budget, I want you to write down what that you're going to serve. Are you going to invite people for a full meal? Are you going to invite people for just cake and coffee? You're going to invite people for soup and sandwich? I don't care. You give me 3 dates, tell me how many people. And it's okay for it to be different. On this first date, you say, all right, 12 people for ice cream. That's good enough. On this next date, you might say 4 people for spaghetti and salad. That's good enough. Now, you hand those pieces of paper back to me. You write those 3 dates down on your calendar. You know that on that particular Friday night, there's going to be 8 people coming to your house for grilled cheese sandwiches and chili. But you don't know who they are, because Bob is in charge of inviting everybody. We call our game, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. All you know is on this date, this many people will show up at the house expecting this. Whether you said it'll be a full meal, it'll just be soup and sandwich, or it'll be dessert, or just a Coca-Cola. I don't care. You see, hospitality is not how many times you open the refrigerator, but how many times you open your heart. Hospitality is spending time with your brothers and your sisters. Now that little game got sort of humorous. Because you see, if you've invited 12 people to come to your house, and then at the last minute, one couple has to back out. There were 2 widow ladies that said, Bob, we're always on the list. If you need somebody to fill in, we're ready to go. And we had one widow lady that had her 3 nights catered. And then we had one college boy that lived in the dormitory at WKU, and I was looking at his list. 12 people next Saturday meet me at the city park for peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Next Sunday night after worship, 6 people to meet me at Dairy Queen for banana splits. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Different people had different finances. They had different abilities. They had different opportunities, but everybody got involved. And maybe I should tell you, the reason I did all of that 24 years ago is because I had drawn the conclusion some of our brothers and sisters don't know each other. And I felt we needed time together. And when that program ended, that's when I started seeing growth in the church at Eastside. Now, without me planning something like that, hey, why don't we go for Sunday lunch together? Or why don't we do this such and such thing next Friday night? When they were opening up the new Chick-fil-A at Bowling Green. Now, I don't know how many of you know this, but every time they open a new Chick-fil-A on the grand opening night, the first 100 people that get there and volunteer to sleep in the parking lot get 100 free sandwiches that year. There were 15 of us from the Eastside Church. But see, Chick-fil-A brings in a disc jockey, and they have music, and they have games, and then all night long they're bringing you hot chocolate chip cookies and that good lemonade that I never can afford to buy. And we played all kinds of games. You have to be there from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. But I got my 100 free sandwiches. But we had fun doing it. And now it's not at all uncommon for me to hear that there's 3 vans that's going to drive to Cincinnati to a baseball game next week. Or there's 24 of them that's got tickets to go to the Grand Ole Opry. Now my birthday's getting ready to come up, and my son bought me my birthday present because I couldn't afford what he bought me. I love the Beach Boys. And they're going to be in Nashville. The Beach Boys are going to play with the Nashville Symphony. That's going to be one of the most unusual concerts I've ever been to. But there's about 20 of them from church that's going to be going. You see, it's fun to do things with Christians. If you've never done it, try it. You see, it will encourage people. It might be expensive. It might be time-consuming. It might be sacrificial, but it doesn't have to be. It could be a peanut butter and jelly sandwich at the city park. The point is to be together. It is a demonstration of love. When we serve His people, when we serve His, we are serving Him. And we have to understand that. Be imitators of me as I am of Christ. It is not enough to imitate the churches of Christ. We must imitate the Christ of the church. He was moved by compassion. He was sent to serve. What about us tonight? Are we restoring the first century Christ? You've listened well. My time is up. I've got 22 seconds to get out of this pulpit. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being attentive. Thank you for encouraging me so much. Now, what can I do to encourage you? If you're not a Christian, I wish I knew 2 more sentences that I could say that would prick your hearts, that would make you want to become a Christian. I wish I knew what I could say that would make you say, all right, I've served the devil long enough. I'm ready to leave the devil. I'm ready to get on the Lord's side now. I wish I knew what I could say to give you the courage and the strength to do that. And maybe there's somebody here tonight that says, okay, tonight I have that courage. I don't want you to do it to make mommy and daddy happy. I don't want you to do it because that's what your wife wants, that's what your husband wants. I want you to do it because you know that's what Christ wants. And you know that you need to do it if you want to go to heaven. We're going to sing this song to try to encourage you. If you're not a Christian, we'd love to see your faith tonight put into practice, and that we could be eyewitnesses to watch as you were baptized into Christ. If you're here as a Christian but you've not been a servant, you've not copied Jesus in your life, would you like to start all over again? Let us know what's on your heart and how we can help. While together we stand and sing.